They've been speeding his footage up though, so when you see his footage in bike reviews, it's actually sped up. Plus I taught him everything he knows. So with 29-inch wheels, 140 millimeters of travel out back, and 150 millimeter Fox 36 fork up front, our 2019 Stumpjumper definitely sits on the more aggressive side of the trail bike fence. Now the Stumpjumper name has been around since 1981, and there's been about a zillion models out there since then. For 2019, there's an all-new Stumpjumper frame, and Specialized has 31 different models based off of this frame. There are a whole bunch of neat details on this new frame. So we have a SWAT box. You could put your tools, you could put food, you could put a burrito. It also has a threaded bottom bracket and room for a 3-inch rear tire if for some reason you wanted to do that. So also of note here is that there's no auto sag rear shock on this bike. So when it comes to geometry, I think the right word to use here is conservative rather than old school. On the front, you're looking at a 66.5 degree head angle, which is right around there. 74.1 degree seat angle on the large. It's not super steep. And then the reach on the large is 445 millimeters. That's pretty conservative nowadays, and that's actually similar to a lot of companies' medium-sized bikes. So when we get to the bike's rear suspension, there's no surprises. It's a horse link setup, and it's delivering 140 millimeters of rear wheel travel. Now over the years, Specialized has been known for their suspension designs that deliver lots of traction, lots of suppleness, but maybe not the crispest, best pedaling systems out there. So we'll see how that fares for 2019. The other thing to mention is that it's a Fox affair front and back. We have a DPX2 on the back, and we have a 150 millimeter Fox 36 up front. Now this is the S-Works model, and S-Works might as well be short for damn that's a lot of money, because this thing costs $9,500 American. Now for that, you're gonna get a carbon frame, you're gonna get a carbon Revol wheel set, and your drivetrain is XX1 Eagle, and there's a bunch of other fancy bits all around. All that's gonna add up to 28.3 pounds, and it's actually one of the lighter aggressive trail bikes that we have on test. And that weight also includes all the SWAT bits and a bottle cage, so that's not too shabby. So for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to pointing the Stumpy up a mountain. It has very active rear suspension. Now first, the good. That delivers a lot of traction. So when it's wet, really dusty, or there just isn't a lot of traction, you might clear things on this bike that you wouldn't clear on other bikes. Now the flip side to that is that, as you would guess, while you're pedaling, the shock is gently cycling through its stroke. So for me, I wanted to reach down and flip the cheater switch. I might want a bike with a little more anti-squat, a bike that feels a little crisper under power, but I think the majority of people would be better served by something like the Specialized that's a little more active. For me, I'm about 5'10", and the bike has a very high stack, 641 millimeters. That's about 30 millimeters more than other larges. My feet were really low and my hands were really high, and it almost felt a little tippy in some sections.
A lot of that comes down to a matter of fit. I didn't have any trouble with the stack, but I'm also taller than you, so there's that. But that kind of brings us to the geometry, the reach of the bike.
Yeah, so the front end of this bike, it's a large, but it's not really a large. It's 445 millimeters, which is about most companies' mediums. It makes for a bike that's definitely nimble and playful, and the rear end factors into that too. It has a fairly short rear end, so it could fit into a lot of places. I would argue that this is more of a fun bike than a very fast bike. I had a lot of fun on the descents, but it's not a race bike, is it?
It's more just an all-rounder trail bike.
Right, and speaking of descending, 140 mils out back, it's a pretty good 140 mils.
There's no more proprietary shock. You can put any shock on there.
No auto sag.
No auto sag. You set it up in the way you would most other bikes. And then you hit bigger hits. It's not blowing through the travel. And
it feels deep, but at the same time, it's not like you're always in it. Yep. There's more hold up there in the mid-stroke. It's very supple on top. Specialized has done well. It may be a little bit too active for my liking, but 140 mils, done very well. There's a few things on this bike that stand out to me component-wise. Now those tires, I feel like they might get some heat because they don't say Maxxis or Schwalbe on the hot patch, but man, are they good. And I had no flats, no issues with the carbon revolve wheels.
So one of the components that stands out is actually kind of a bunch of little components that form what Specialized call their SWAT system, or storage, water, air tools. In the head tube, there's a little multi-tool that pops up when you slide a little lever. And then there's also a chain tool under there as well.
I managed to get 3 bags of Haribo in there.
Yeah, you can fit gummy bears, Twinkies, whatever. All right, so the pros about the bike. We can start off with just the frame in general. It's the little details are all taken care of. There's no cut corners, no weird cable routing, nothing like that. Just a well thought out frame. There's also no proprietary shock, which we really like to see. Just gives you room in the future if you want to try something else out, or if you need to get a replacement. Just makes things simpler for consumers and shops and everybody in general.
So I think there's 2 big things for me. And the first one, the biggest one, is the bike's rear suspension. Basically, the rear of this bike delivers a ton of traction, feels very forgiving. It feels like it has more travel than it does, which is probably the biggest compliment you could say. And it just seems to use it very well. Now, the other thing is, I think it's a great generalist. I hate to use this term confidence inspiring, but it is that kind of bike, isn't it?
Yeah, it can do just about everything with limits. Like, it wouldn't be my pick for a bike park, something like that.
Yeah.
And like we said, even you could race it, but doesn't quite have the feel that you'd be looking for in a race bike, but for a bike you just ride all day, every day.
Yeah, like a mountain bike.
A mountain bike.
It's like a mountain bike.
It's one of the first mountain bikes, and it still continues to
I was gonna say, it kind of works out well that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not quite as positive is the Specialized dropper seat post. It's sort of like a mechanical seat post that's trying to be infinite. It has all these little tiny notches. It never felt natural. And by the end of the test session, it stopped returning to full travel. It would stop about 1 inch all the way up. One of the big ones for me is the conservative geometry. It has a 445 mil reach, which is actually kind of a medium. It's almost like their sizing is one off. So if you're thinking about this bike, definitely look at the sizing chart, definitely pay attention.
All right, so who's the Stumpjumper for? It really fits right into that all-rounder generalist category. Easy bike to recommend.
So thanks for watching. We've got a whole bunch of other bikes to test in our 2019 Pinkbike field test. So stay tuned to see how they compare.